Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk. Bei mir heute wieder ein Startinterview. Das heißt, ich kenne die Firma eigentlich relativ wenig, aber natürlich im Vorfeld ein bisschen angeschaut. Ein paar Sachen gefallen mir richtig gut. Aber das werde ich Ihnen dann im Interview hoffentlich auch rüberbringen. Wann nicht, dann werde ich es im Nachspann dann nochmal ein bisschen zusammenfassen. Bei mir ist der CEO und Co-Founder of Levitee Labs, das ist der Pouya Farmand, und er sitzt gerade in Miami. Dort ist es deutlich wärmer aus wie bei uns. Wir haben ja gerade einen ziemlichen Schneefall gehabt, aber er wird hoffentlich die Wärme uns ein bisschen rüberschicken und vielleicht auch den Aktienkurs dann dementsprechend drauf. Yeah, thank you for your time. And I said in my German introduction, this is a start interview. I have not too much clue about the company, and this brings me to the first question is, maybe you can give us an elevator pitch, what your company is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start off, thank you, Joe, for having me on. So I'd like to set the stage and start with briefly mapping out what the current psychedelic ecosystem looks like for your audience to get a better idea of what Levitee Labs does. So generally, you can break down the current psychedelic ecosystem into two categories: pharmacological development, as well as those who are establishing clinics, wellness centers, psychedelic retreats, etc. With Levitee Labs, we've taken a different approach. On the pharmacological development side, you have companies like Kannst, MindMed, Levitee, that are doing the holy work of creating novel psychedelic compounds to treat mental health issues, addiction, anxiety, depression, which is the biggest health burden in the world. However, these companies are very far from achieving any kind of revenue and profitability. It's extremely capital intensive. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars for these companies to actually come with a commercially viable product. And it's a long roadmap. And when they get to that third phase of clinical trials, there's only a 15% chance of success to getting FDA approval. But we bet that they will. On the other side, you have companies that are starting clinics. So that's high capex. They have to pay practitioners, medical practitioners, etc. So these companies, that translates into a lower EBITDA margin and also very hard to make viable in the long term. What we've done with Levitee Labs, and now I can kind of talk about how we differentiate ourselves, is in a very short period of time have become a leader in terms of fundamentals, revenue, by using three pillars in our strategy. So Levitee as a whole, we're a wellness company that's completely transforming the infrastructure of addiction care through three ways. Number one is we're using our M&A roll-up strategy to acquire clinics, specialized pharmacies, compounding pharmacies, and bring them under one umbrella, the Levitee umbrella. Number two is we're integrating that with technology. You have to remember, the addiction services space is extremely fragmented, and these companies are very siloed. And with technology, with telemedicine, with end-to-end practice management tools, you can really decrease inefficiencies as well as increase interoperability as well as scalability for care. And number three is then we have already in the form of ketamine, but in the future, we want to integrate other psychedelic medicines into the platform. So that's what Levitee Labs is right now. I'm proud to say that we're already, after 4 months of being public, the largest addiction service provider in the province of Alberta in Canada. And now we're expanding to British Columbia as well as other provinces. And we're looking to penetrate into the US market in the future as well. Our goal is to reach $100 million run rate revenue by the end of next year.
Wow. And you're on a good way. I saw you are very active on the press release side. I saw a press release compounding number for September and October. You're coming closely to 1.5 million revenue. So that's mean for a year is this 10 million around roughly?
Yeah, our run rate right now is about 10 million. You know, you have to remember we just went public. Our M&A strategy is very central to our growth through inorganic growth acquisitions, as well as organic growth by increasing efficiencies, the technology, as well as other parameters that we've set. Our pipeline is extremely deep. Just in Canada alone, our pipeline is comprised of $500 million in revenue and $100 million in EBITDA. And we know how to roll up these companies and create efficiencies and synergies.
I saw this on the presentation, and I must say it's a very good presentation for everyone that is really interested in the company. Should go to a website. I show this also. It's very straightforward presentation. Is not really often that I see so straightforward presentation. So congratulations for this.
Thank you very much.
What is your background?
Yeah. So my background is I'm a finance guy. I was in investment banking, mergers, acquisitions, and venture capital. I primarily dealt with emerging industries. So I was extremely involved in the cannabis sector as well as the cryptocurrency side.
Mm-hmm.
But with regards to the psychedelic world, psychedelics kind of saved my life in my early 20s when I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and ADHD. And I had seen the effects of antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, etc., on close family members. So I didn't want to do those things. And then I saw the cannabis boom, and I anticipated psychedelics being next because I had been ceremonially and ritually doing psychedelics for about a decade, and I understood the power of them. So I kind of bridged my financial expertise of putting deals together, and I looked at the current, when psychedelics just came out, the first few companies, I didn't think that their models are correct, and they're not going to be financially viable. And I had amassed a good network of people in the psychedelic sphere that could help me on the scientific side. And so we put a fantastic team. And our greatest achievement, even now that we're growing extremely quickly, is the team that we put together. Very bright minds and very ambitious and inspired individuals that and I'm serving them. So my background, finance, really deep connection to the world of psychedelics, and I felt like this is something that I want to put myself really deep into and make that change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, but your background, your financial background is we see this in this presentation. So you write this what investors look for, I must say.
Yeah.
And you're really active on the M&A side. Then shortly after the announcement of the September and October revenues, you're coming up with a new acquisition, also pharmacies in Vancouver, I think, and
that's right.
And that's around 4 million you pay for them. It's bring me then to the point how you finance this.
Yeah, so we just currently, so we're going to be very aggressive with regards to our acquisition approach coming up in the next year. The way we're going to acquire these companies are usually structured through cash, stock, as well as debt. We also implement earnouts as well as vendor takebacks to make these acquisitions. Mm-hmm. And generally, we like to onboard the leaders, good entrepreneurs with good leadership skills to come and join the Levitee Labs team. So we kind of become the financiers of these visionaries that want to create the change that have aligned visions with regards to what we're doing. How we're going to finance them is we just recently, to answer your question accurately, we just recently got a debt financing of up to $12 million. We've drawn down $2.5 million. And if we need more capital, right now we have cash in the bank as well as we can use stock. And we have access to this source of capital via debt. If we want to make larger acquisitions, we also have discussions in regards to raising more capital in the future, but it's not imminent right now with the current price. I think we're extremely undervalued right now. We're trading at about 2.5 times revenue. So I think that mismatch has to converge before we raise more equity.
That comes to my next question. What was the reason why the share price is so low? Is this something that you maybe do in the past, some takeovers with stock, and maybe this stock coming now onto the market, or what's happened?
The stock, well, there's two ways to look at it. From a relative standpoint, our stock has actually outperformed most of the other psychedelic names compared to their last financing. The general market on the psychedelic side over the past few months has dropped off a little bit, but it's a cyclical thing. In cannabis and cryptos and everything you see, that was the first wave. And I think the second, third, fourth, fifth wave are still to come, and they're going to be much larger. and there's a lot of catalysts that are building. So the first thing from a macroeconomic stance is the general market from a macro side, as well as the psychedelic market, have kind of tapered off. In terms of a more detailed explanation on exactly our stock, we listed on July 21st on the Canadian Securities Exchange. We had raised $10.5 million, and we deployed our capital to fundamental aspects of the business, making smart business decisions by acquiring these businesses that are revenue producing, cash flow producing. And we didn't spend much on the marketing side, because then we hit the summer months. And now that we have established a very strong network of clinics, pharmacies, and we have a very strong thesis with regards to what we're doing, we're more focused on that exposure to our investor audience and community to get some, believers behind us that are aligned with us. So right now, it's a very good opportunity for investors that want something fundamental connected to the psychedelic space with a very vast growth opportunity.
The placement what you do, this 10.5 million, which price was this?
That was at 50 cents. So
50 cents.
So we're about 30% under issue. And
is it possible that we see at the moment some tax loss selling? Tax loss selling, that we maybe see some tax loss selling and
potentially, yeah. We're now December 1st, so it's an opportunity for those who are looking for longer term horizons of something that has high growth potential. But tax loss selling could be a variable for all companies.
For me, don't get me wrong. For me, it's great when the stock is low. When I like the story, I will buy it cheap and not on the high price.
I have the same mindset, and it's worked well for me.
So from them standpoint, I'm absolutely happy with the share price. But it makes suffer when you make some acquisition and you have a stock component in, then you must give more stock with them, and then it's not so fun from the company standpoint. So to summarize, before I summarize a little bit, I saw also on your presentation that you have a relationship with a portfolio company from Well Health Technologies. So what this mean? Right. What do you do with this portfolio company for Well Health?
Absolutely. So this is a very key relationship with Well Health Technologies. I'm a big admirer of the CEO and founder of Well, Hamid Shabazi, which is an amazing character and has been a role model of mine in many ways and a mentor in some ways. But when I spoke about our three pillars, which is the M&A, and then the second is technology, Well really comes into the technology piece, where we're utilizing their entire technology stack, including their telemedicine, telehealth platforms, as well as their other end-to-end practice management tools, and deploying it across our network of clinics, addiction clinics, as well as pharmacies, compounding pharmacies, to decrease these inefficiencies. These centers are extremely archaic still, and they need that technology stack to increase scalability, as well as there's a lot of natural synergies between these clinics when they're combined. And so just from the practitioner standpoint, as well as the patient standpoint, there's a lot that can be done just by implementing these technologies. And that translates also on the fundamental side in regards to raising our margins on the business side as well.
You can make expectation. What are the synergy in percentage-wise from the margin or from the earnings? What you can get more out of it to use this technology?
Absolutely. We're working on models right now to exactly be able to project and see what the synergies look like as we grow, especially as we make further acquisitions, because that's when it really takes effect. Right now, we have a good network, a good base of clinics. We're the largest in Alberta, but I think by the end of next year, it's going to be much more relevant in how we see these synergies develop.
Do you are only interested to expand in Canada, or do you think also to go to your south neighbor?
We are interested in North America right now. So our first stop is Canada. It's home base. It's where I grew up. I saw addiction. If you've been to Vancouver, BC, you know that there's a major issue with regards to addiction. So it's something that I saw. There needs to be a solution for it. Traditional medicine, Western medicine has reached a plateau with regards to helping those suffering from addiction, because addiction is not just a simple issue. It's something that causes other comorbidities. And so with my other interests in psychedelics that had helped me a lot, and seeing the research for psychedelics helping those that are suffering from the perils of addiction, it really, that's why we started it at home base with Alberta and with Vancouver. But our intention is to expand into the United States market and potentially into Europe as well.
Mm-hmm. When you think on the US, it makes from your standpoint make it then sense to go also on the US market? For example, then US market have higher valuation than the Canadian market. That's for sure. And the interest on investor base is much bigger in the US than in Canada.
Absolutely. Yes, is the answer to that question.
Okay, that's enough. I think so. To summarize a little bit, so your primary focus at the moment is the M&A strategy, and then also the synergy, to use synergy in this all these M&A companies what to bring together, that you use these synergies or bring the synergy together, that the revenue is growing and also the earnings is growing. Then that's the major point. Do you run this then under an umbrella of Levitee, or they use different names then?
They will all be branded to Levitee clinics, Levitee pharmacies, etc.
Okay, so that you can really establish a brand.
Yeah. We also have a wellness division as well, which is E-Commerce. It's nutraceuticals as well as superfoods, which is extremely important and very complementary to our pharmacies and clinics as well.
But this driven by E-Commerce?
Yes. So we have about 185 SKUs right now. It's a vastly, it's growing extremely quickly, about 5% month over month. This was also one of our acquisitions early on, which is called Earth Circle Organics. About 185 SKUs with regards to superfoods, powders, etc., as well as functional mushrooms, nutraceuticals. And these are things that are just for general well-being. And
Do you help the lockdown or the COVID crisis help this business or not?
Absolutely, yeah, in a big way.
Okay. So COVID,
and I think that is a very sticky change. I don't think it's going away. I think COVID, not only for the nutraceutical e-commerce kind of businesses was a very rapid and sticky change, but also for things like telemedicine, telehealth, etc. That it really accelerated the development and adoption of these technologies. So I think we have an exciting future ahead of us.
Okay. Yeah, I must say, Pouya, thank you for the first introduction to your company. I think it's really was a very interesting one. So and I like your share price, I must really say. I know you don't agree with me, but not as a shareholder, I like it. Then no, I'm
listen. You're absolutely right, and I would too. I don't blame you for liking it. I don't think it'll be around here for much longer, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. Ja, thank you for your first introduction. Ja, das war jetzt ein wirklich spannendes Interview. Also jetzt nochmal kurz zum Retour. Also Sie sind eigentlich im psychedelischen Bereich, aber die Strategie ist eigentlich ganz anders eigentlich. Also Sie haben eine extrem stark fokussierte M&A-Strategie. Sie kaufen Kliniken, Sie kaufen Pharmacies. Sie haben auch bereits Umsätze. Sie haben im September, Oktober 1,5 Millionen umgesetzt. Das ist hochgerechnet 10 Millionen aufs Jahr. Er will auf 100 Millionen im Jahr kommen nächstes Jahr. Da kommen noch ein paar Übernahmen, das ist ganz klar. Und es teilt sich auch schön auf, das sieht man 28% war Kliniken, 40% war die Pharmacies, 31% war das E-Commerce Business, Superfoods und das Ganze, wo wir vorher gerade geredet haben. Da kommt ein schönes Umsatzwachstum zusammen und sie haben auch, glaube ich, die nächsten Übernahmen angekündigt. Sie haben 10,5 Millionen geraced mit 50 Cent. Die Aktie ist seit Juli an der Börse gegangen. Wir sind jetzt bei 34,5%. Ich vermute, dass da relativ viel Tax-Loss-Selling auch dabei ist. Dann generell, der Markt rennt nicht so weltbewegend, ob das jetzt Cannabis ist oder Psychedelik. Das ist dasselbe, also das läuft momentan nicht. Aber warum soll man es kaufen? Wenn es teuer ist und jeder will oder wenn es keiner will. Also ich muss ehrlicherweise sagen, hat mir extrem gut gefallen. Die Präsentation ist extrem sharp gemacht, also wirklich sehr, sehr gut gemacht. Das ist genau das, was Investoren schauen, damit man diese Daten gleich alle auf einer Folie zusammen haben. Also muss ich ehrlicherweise sagen, ich schaue mir es jetzt noch mal an, aber mir gefällt das echt gut und werde dazu morgen noch mal dann in meiner Ausgabe drauf eingehen. Aber das hat echt wirklich Sinn gemacht, was er uns da präsentiert hat. Und ich bin echt gespannt, was die Company uns da noch die nächsten Tage und Wochen präsentieren wird. Ja, das war heute am 1. Dezember 2021 ein erste Introduction von Levitee Labs. Ich wünsche euch viel Spaß, viel Erfolg und wir hören uns in Kürze. Tschüss und Baba.